This is Dr. Carroll, and this is the overview video for the Python Files series. So, who's used a computer program before? What did it do? What's one of your favorite computer programs? Did it save any information? For example, a game. Anybody play games? Did it save what you did? So imagine that it didn't save any progress. You may work on a spreadsheet, an essay, a document, a brochure, a game, and it didn't save it. Well, if it's saving it, it's probably using a file. So let's talk about files. And this series is going to talk about opening a file. It's going to talk about exceptions with files and writing to files, reading from files, processing records from a file. And notice the little difference in description there. We write to a file and we read from a file. And when we talk about writing files, writing data to files, what we're talking about is saving the data to a file on a disk, on a network drive, or maybe even a holographic cube if you're on the cutting edge. And so there are 4 steps to using a file, which will be a good backbone for the video series. We need to open the file. That's step 1. Can't do anything with a file unless you open it. Step 2 is we need to verify that we've successfully opened the file. Step 3 is we need to either read from it or write to the file, or otherwise, why did we open it in the first place? And then lastly, we need to close the file. Now, I do want to talk about file names for just a second. And so there are relative and there's absolute paths which make up a file name. So let's talk about relative paths first. And this is a file that is starting from the current working directory. And that's what we mean by a relative path. And so some examples I think will be illustrative here. And so if we just specify that the file name is prices.txt, it's expecting that there is a prices.txt in the current working directory where we are. But if we specify a relative path data/inventory comma separated value file, CSV here, then it's expecting that there is a data directory, and in that data directory there's an inventory.csv file, and that data directory is in our current working directory. And so this is typically where we're executing the Python script. Now, this is in contrast to an absolute path, which is it starts with the root or the drive. And so instead of being relative, it's absolute. And so for a Unix, Linux, or a Mac OS machine, it's going to start with a slash. That's the root directory. For a Windows machine, we're going to specify a drive. For example, it'd be like C:, and then slash. And let's look at some examples here. So I hope this one's a Linux or a Mac OS example, and it's NSF home cool username data solutions.dat. And so this, if we specify this path, this absolute path, we know it's absolute path because it starts with a slash, and execute it anywhere on a computer, it will always get the exact same file. It doesn't matter which directory we're in because it's going to start at the root directory and go forward. Same with this one, starts with a slash, so we know it's a Linux or Mac OS one. We're going into the temp directory and pulling out columbusattractions.txt. Oh, this one must be a Windows one because we have C: on the C drive, /users, power user, documents, shopping list.txt. Now you may notice, well, wait, is this really a Windows file path? Because the slashes are forward slashes instead of backslashes. And so Python lets us use either forward or backslashes for Windows file. Isn't that nice of it? If you really like your backslashes, remember that a backslash is an escape character. So for example, remember in like \n is new line. So you can just put an R before the string to indicate it's a raw string which means don't interpret the backslashes as the escape character. Well, there it is. There's an overview for the Python files series. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out my other videos.